On today's episode of With the First Pick, we'll tell you why Washington Huskies quarterback Michael Penix Jr. may have just had his C.J. Stroud moment in the college football playoffs and what that means for his draft stock. We'll also talk about whether his top target, Rome Odunze, hold on to your hats, Rick, can challenge Marvin Harrison Jr. for wide receiver one. And then there's Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Did he help or hurt himself against Alabama? We'll hit all that. The updated NFL draft order, and a just so crazy it might actually make sense draft trade involving the Bears, Commanders, and Patriots. So stick around for that. I'm Ryan Wilson. That, of course, is Rick Spielman. This is episode 110. 110. And Rick, how many days until the 2024 NFL draft?
114 days into the 2024 NFL draft, and I put another brick in the wall today, so I still have about 1 million more bricks to go till that wall is finished. Hopefully it'll be done in 114 days.
Oh, 14 days so you can come down on me. That'll be January 15th. So look forward to that.
I'm taking a new leaf. I'm going to start wearing all my island shirts with all the flowers on it, and I think I might take my New Year's resolution was to be nice to Ryan, is at least give an effort. That's my New Year's resolution.
I have noticed that you have, in fact, given an effort. You did it on HQ, and you also did it via the email between me, you, and Debo about today's show. So I look forward to how quickly things change and based on what I say in the coming minutes and an hour. All right, let's get to it, Rick. Let's start with my guy, Michael Penix Jr., who had another incredible performance, threw for 430 yards in that college football playoff game. That is only behind Joe Burrow, Mac Jones, and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow did it twice in the semis and then in the national title game back in 2019. Mac Jones did it in 2020. Then we have Michael Penix Jr., who was slinging it. And I said all fall that he's a better athlete than people give him credit for. Do you now believe me, Rick Spielman?
I never said he was a bad athlete, but he did show that he can make some plays with his legs this game and make some off-schedule throws that were pretty impressive.
So, right, I'll say a statement, and you tell me whether you agree or disagree. Best deep ball thrower in college football.
Agree.
Best deep ball thrower in this draft class.
Agree.
And we talk about his athleticism. How much are you going to discount the fact that he's throwing to a top 10 pick in Rome Odunze and two other day 2 picks in Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan?
It doesn't matter because he's making those throws.
Yeah.
So why are you going to punish the guy? Because he has some pretty good receivers. You don't go into this and say, well, God, he's throwing to X, Y, and Z, all 3 NFL caliber receivers. So you don't punish a guy for that. You punish him if he's off target or if he's frozen in the pocket, or this guy does everything. And one of the plays I watched on film this morning when number 90, my favorite defensive tackle.
Yep.
Byron Murphy came humming around unblocked. He took a shot, but delivered the ball downfield right on schedule and with great accuracy. And this guy is as tough as they come. And every time he gets on the field, it's just more impressive. And we talk about how do you measure a quarterback and all of the traits that you look for. But the one thing this guy does that he is showing that he can do, he's a winner. And every time he gets on a big stage, whether it's in regular season versus Oregon, whether it's in the Pac-12 championship, whether it's in the Final Four in the college football playoffs, he continues to deliver and deliver in a big way.
I was impressed, again, because we've talked about him all fall. I was impressed with his ability, and you talked about it a second ago, to throw off platform. He can throw without setting his feet. He can throw accurately without setting his feet to what feels like all 3 levels. He was late on one deep ball to Rome Odunze later in the game, but that's because that was at least his 3rd read, and he got back around to it and just threw it as far as he could. And the thing about throwing to Rome Odunze is either he's going to catch it or either it's going to probably be DPI. In that case, it was defensive pass interference. You talked about Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy, for me, just primarily watching Penix, had a pretty good game. And on at least 2 occasions, Penix sidestepped Byron Murphy in the pocket, avoided the rush, and then got to his check down, again, accurately. And, oh, boy, I'm taking a breath here because Debo just flashed a graphic, if you're listening, of Michael Penix Jr. alongside 2015 and 2016 Patrick Mahomes, back-to-back seasons with 4,500 passing yards. 2 guys did it. One named Patrick Mahomes, the other one Michael Penix Jr. last year and this year. So, Rick, I've typically had Michael Penix Jr. going in the middle of the first round when I do these mock drafts for HQ. And I've talked to teams in the fall that have a first-round grade on them, and I've talked to teams that have a third-round grade on them. Where does Rick Spielman come down pretty early on in the process here?
His performance last night, his performance in the national championship game, if it continues to be what we've seen through the year, if it continues to be what we've seen when the stage lights are the brightest, and he even takes his game up another notch. And I know you've already crowned Jaden Daniels as a third quarterback off the board, but I'm not so sure as this goes that he may challenge for the number 3 spot.
Oh boy.
And I'm only saying this because you know how, I want to say, prejudiced I can be towards people who play when they roll the ball out and don't.
That's true. That's true.
And he has to play. I mean, he's in the championship games. So, but he's playing. Jaden Daniels was doing interviews on the sideline, what actually I hate.
Was he eating hot dogs at least?
No hot dogs this time. Just interviewing with ESPN to give them some exclusive content to happen during a very good bowl game. The LSU game, Wisconsin, right? I was
watching Oregon. I didn't even watch the LSU game.
Yeah, it was very good. Very good game, very competitive. But so while he's sitting there doing interviews, and then Michael Penix, all of a sudden, man, that's the last impression I have on Michael Penix. What's the last impression I have on Jaden Daniels? Well, that was a month ago. I got to go back and look at my damn notes.
Right.
So if he wins the national championship and plays like he's playing right now, I don't have any question he's going to go in the first round. It's just how high.
What about the injuries? 2 ACLs, 2 shoulders over 2 years ago.
Well, apparently they put his knees on forward because he's moving around like he has no injuries. And that'll come out in the medical, once we get through this pre-draft process. But let's say he didn't have the injuries and you just watched the tape.
Right.
This guy, to me, is going to be jockeying his position as the potential third quarterback. Who knows? There's a long way to go yet coming off teams' draft boards. But those teams that have him in the third round, if they think they're going to sit and wait till the third round for him to fall to them, I probably wouldn't sit too long.
Yeah. No, he might get bumped up at least around, maybe more, depending on how things unfold as we go through this process here. But just looking at the draft order, and we'll get into it much deeper later in the show here. But at 8 are the Jets, 9 the Falcons, 11 the Raiders, 12 the Vikings, 13 the Saints, 14 the Broncos. All teams need quarterbacks to varying degrees, so it's hard to imagine. Jaden Daniels and Caleb and Drake will probably be long gone. So then you start saying to yourself, okay, what's up next? And here's something I keep coming back to, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail when we get to the other quarterback here. But I like to describe it as I had to squint to find the good with Will Levis, and there were reasons for it. He was hurt, and his team wasn't very good around him. And sometimes when you're evaluating these quarterbacks, you're having to squint to see why they're supposed to be first-round picks or whatever. There's no squinting involved with all you got to do is watch him play. I mentioned at the top, does this feel like a CJ Stroud versus Georgia moment, or is that an overstatement?
No, I think it was one of those. How do they say it, in the watershed moments?
Oh, well done. Well done. You got a word of the day calendar for Christmas, I see.
So, and I'm anxious if, like I said, it may be another watershed moment in the national championship game.
So top 15, how do you feel about that range?
I think he'd be considered in a lot of teams' boards that need quarterbacks.
All right, I'm going to push my luck here. I don't remember if we watched Michael Penix Jr. over summer scouting. I'm sure Debo will tell us. What was your comp at the time? I have a new.
That was 6 months ago. I can't even remember my comp.
My comp, and you're going to love it. Hold on. Stronger arm Tua.
I could see that comp just because it's easy to go because he's left-handed.
He can spin it, though.
He can spin it. He
allegedly has 11-inch hands. Yeah, better arm than Tua. He allegedly has 11-inch hands, which is like Andre the Giant hands.
He was not part of the top 5. He was in our others worth mentioning category, so we didn't even give a summer comp for him, but we did give a summer comp for Riley Leonard, in case you were wondering.
Oh, my God. Did I give a comp for Riley? I didn't even...
You probably said running back.
You refused, actually, Rick.
I knew it. All right, let's talk about the guys he was throwing the ball to, guys who are going to be playing on Sundays very soon. We'll start with Rome Odunze, of course. I don't know how you stop Rome Odunze. Contested catch guy, but he's not slow. He's stacking guys consistently, and he runs routes at all three levels. He ran that big end where I think he avoided Byron Murphy and hit him on the end on the secondary throw there. And again, I don't think he's challenging Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think he's had a better season than Marvin Harrison Jr.
Maybe, but he's not as talented overall as Marvin Harrison Jr.
Where I know we've talked about,
he had a better quarterback play than Marvin Harrison Jr. did.
Now you've turned on him that he's at Syracuse. How dare you talk about that way about the Syracuse quarterback? We've talked about Malik Neighbors as wide receiver too. I think Odunze's making his case.
Yeah, I still would go with Neighbors, but Odunze is clear to be.
It is amazing to me. Are you at all impressed with, number one, those deep balls look like long handoffs, which is how good our guy Michael Penix Jr. is throwing that. Are you impressed with how often the receivers come down with the ball in those? It feels like they catch 75% of them.
Yeah, one, the quarterback is giving them an opportunity to go up and make the play, and two, they're taking advantage to show that they can make plays in contested situations, which is a critical factor when you're evaluating a receiver. So, and this guy may be the best contested catch receiver besides Marvin Harrison Jr. in a draft.
Again, he feels like a top 15 pick. Would that surprise you at all?
Nope.
Would he have been wide receiver 1 last year?
Well, not off the tape we did in the summer.
No, but off this tape, 23 tape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Head of Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin, Zay, Jordan Addison.
Yep.
You want to hear my comp, or do you want to go first with your comp so you have a moment to catch your breath?
Go ahead. I love your comps.
A.J. Brown.
I can see that.
You're being too nice now.
14 days.
Dial back the nice medication, Rick. I won't tell you what my comp was over the summer. He was a different player over the summer, though. So I was happy to revisit and revise but A.J. Brown, in terms of the physicality, he's probably won't run a 4.3, I don't think, which is what I think A.J. ran in the 4.3s.
He'll run the 4.4s.
Yeah, he's moving, though.
He's plenty fast enough.
Okay.
Did I have a comp, Debo?
Yeah, we went over this last week. Cedric Tillman and Cody Latimer were the two.
That was right. Don't put me with Cody Latimer.
That was mine.
Yeah.
I told you he's a look. We talk about Jaden Dale's improving a ton. Odunze seems like a different player in terms of the speed at which he plays since.
Yes, he is. Yep. Bigger, stronger, faster.
Bigger, stronger, faster. All right, two of his teammates, Jalen Polk, number 2, and Jalen McMillan, number 11 on your score sheet. Polk had 5 catches, 122, and Jalen McMillan went for 558. Both had touchdowns. I think McMillan had the skinny post late in the game where Penix threw a laser between the two deep safeties. The thing is, that ball was thrown with a little bit of anticipation and with such speed that the far side safety didn't even have it. He wasn't even close to breaking that up.
No. What did I say? Touch with velocity down the field?
That's a great way to put it. And then the first deep ball, which is on the first series, was that little post corner run by Jalen Polk. He stacked the DB on the post and then just ran away from him on the corner. And then another long handoff for 35, 40, whatever yards it was, from Michael Penix Jr. McMillan plays mostly in the slot. He lined up in the backfield a few times too. And Polk gives you versatility inside and out. I mean, both guys are going to feel like day 2 guys.
Yeah, I think they're both going to be Friday. I would have, because he did play, my new guy, Thomas Jr. from.
Brian Thomas out of LSU.
Yeah, he's my new favorite above these two.
Oh, he played on.
Yeah, he did
in the bowl game. Okay. No Malik though, I would imagine, right? No Malik Neighbors.
No, he was doing interviews too.
Well, I'm going to remind you about someone who played in their bowl game too, and see if that changes your opinion of them. I think Brian Thomas is a first-round pick.
Oh yeah, no, but this is a stronger receiver class at the top than last year by far.
Right.
Because I can see 5 or 6 receivers going in the first round this year.
Yep, I do not disagree with that. And I thought that Rashee Rice may have been overdrafted in round 2. He's playing pretty well. But I think any of these guys in round 2, you feel pretty comfortable about based on what you saw in the fall in terms of their college tape.
Yep.
All right. And then let's take it to Braylon Trice, the edge rusher, who had a big game on the biggest stage. And we talked about him early in the year, and then we sort of got away from him because we were talking about a lot of other edge rushers. But let me just tell you this about Braylon Trice, because I looked it up real quick. over the course of the entire season, he had a huge game against Texas, but over the course of the entire season, he led all FBS in pressures with 77. In terms of hits on the quarterback, he was 4th. In terms of hurries, he was 1st with 53. Now, he didn't have the sack numbers. He only had 7 sacks, but as you've said many times before, being a good edge rusher isn't just about sacks. It's about getting the quarterback uncomfortable, and he did that a lot over the course of the fall, and he did it a lot over Monday evening, against Texas and Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, he was. And the most impressive thing is they lined him up all over the field. He had his first sack, I believe, over Texas's right offensive tackle, where he did a nice swim under move. Second sack that I saw was when he was on the left side, guard tried to pull. He avoided the guard. Ewers stepped up in a pocket, and he got his other sack. But the other thing, what I didn't see on earlier tape, is them lining him up over the center and guard from a 2-point, and almost like an A-gap rusher. And his quick twitch, I still think he's a little stiff, but he was able to be disruptive, not with his hand in the dirt, but standing up when they lined him up over the center and guards as well. The only negative I had on him in this game is he did not hold up at the point versus a run as much as I would like him to. At times he got knocked off the ball versus drive blocks, but going away, I mean, there were a couple plays where he is humming from the backside, had 1 tackle for loss, humming from the backside. He can run in a straight line. I do believe he still has some stiffness to him, but he took his game up a notch, and there was no question, even just TV scouting, but I went back and watched the tape today, that he definitely jumped off the tape. And he's a guy that plays with, like say, his hair on fire.
Yeah, that first sack, he beat Christian Jones, the right tackle, who's going to get drafted probably day 2 through the B gap, a little inside move that you talked about there. And that other sack that you mentioned where they pulled the guard, I'm thinking, why would you pull the guard to try to block this guy? And he made quick work of the guard and got the sack on Ewers. And then we've seen more athletic edge rushers play in the A gap, it seems like, in recent years, because of the mismatch with the less athletic, if you will, interior offensive lineman. And he was giving those guys fits the handful of times he did it. And that's just one more thing he can do when you think about what it looks like, trying to evaluate him throughout the process. So what do you think about this? Late first, early second?
Oh, yeah, by far. It'll be interesting to see. I guess the guy who may be a little bit more athletic, but not as productive, is JTT, the edge rusher from Ohio State, if he does decide to come out.
To Malloy, yeah.
I think that maybe some teams may look at this guy ahead of him.
Braylon unofficially 270. I don't know. Do you know what JT is?
I think he's going to be around that 260. Yeah, they're not going to be that far off, I don't think, from a measurable standpoint.
You know my Braylon Trice comp?
Yeah.
I know we watched him over the summer because you hated the comp. I changed it after watching him again, though.
How do you change things?
Well, I watched him over the summer. I hadn't touched his comp since I rewatched him this fall.
Okay, so you changed your comp?
Well, yeah, because he's improved. Okay. You may hate it, so I may just go back to the original.
I hated all your summer comps. They were
yeah, I've been pretty good so far.
You gave a very good effort trying to come up with summer comps. I just didn't see the same comps that you did.
All right, I'm going to take a little old school here. Tell me what you think of this. Lamar Woodley.
Ooh. Yeah, that's better. What'd you do in the summer?
Matt Judon.
Oh my God.
I didn't want to tell you. I told you.
Rick, you had Trey Hendrickson over the summer.
Yep.
Oh.
I'll stick with that.
Because Lamar was a second-round pick. I don't remember why he fell into the second round. That was the 2007 draft. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, but he obviously turned out to be very effective. And depending on where you put him, I mean, you put him opposite Aiden Hutchinson, his life's a lot easier than if he has to be the number 1 edge rusher wherever that destination might be. So
I like the Trey Hendrickson comparison.
No, I get it. You made it. I would understand why you would like that.
You don't like it?
No, I do like it. And
Have you ever not liked one of my comps?
I know. Unlike you, I like everything that you do. What's I going to say? Oh, you know what's interesting about this Washington team? I don't remember the stat. I don't have it in front of me, but they mentioned a couple times on telecast. They have like 8 or 9 straight games where they've won by a single score. It felt like they were beating Texas by 30 points. And then they had the special teams blunders, the mistakes at the end, the play calling that was sort of questionable offensively. But we're not here to talk about strategy. We're just here to talk about the players. But I think we agree. All those guys that we just talked about did not hurt themselves, and in some cases really helped themselves. And congrats to those guys. Oh, by the way, let's talk quickly about Quinn Ewers. It sounds like he's going to come back. I think Steve Sarkisian mentioned it, and I've heard that he's probably going to come back. I don't know how that worked with Arch Manning, so on and so forth. Started incredibly slow, looked a little flustered at times, but finished strong, made some good throws down the stretch. I think Xavier Worthy was a little banged up before the game. Jatavian Sanders was 6 for 6 in his first targets. He missed one at the end of that as they were trying to move the ball down the field. He didn't get his head around quickly enough. He came off for a moment. Adonai Mitchell made a big play late in the game, but he didn't get a lot of opportunities. So I think that we talk about Michael Penix having the playmakers. So does Quinn Ewers. It just, he struggled early on.
Caliber receivers and an NFL caliber tight end. And I still think he's a touch timing thrower.
I do.
Like I saw just Penix one time throw off the back foot and the ball was 40 yards down the field, or he can throw the ball now. Where Ewers, to me, I gave him probably more credit athletically on some of the plays he made with his legs this game. I thought he made some off-schedule type throws. I still think he has really nice touch at times on the deep ball, but some of the deep balls are underthrown. I do think that he puts too much air under the ball at times. A couple of the times, he doesn't drive the ball in tight windows like a Penix does, but where he places the ball, it gives a receiver, not the DB, a chance to make a play on the ball. So I think he's helped himself. I watched him in the Big 12 championship game. Now he had the 4 or 5 touchdowns, but Brian Wilson could have thrown those balls because there was no one covering anyone. Looked like practice on air.
Right.
But he's gotten better. I still think I would, if I was him, I'd come back to school. I still think he's behind all these guys that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And if he comes back and stays healthy and plays well, he's going to have, he'll be putting himself in the mix next year.
He'll be QB2 behind Riley Leonard is what you're saying.
Yeah, probably.
By the way, I shouldn't sell it too short. That touchdown, that was a good, to talk about the giving his wide receivers a chance. That touchdown he threw to Adonai Mitchell. What a fantastic play from Mitchell, who jumped too early and had such hang time that he just decided to freeze in the air and still make the catch in the corner of the end zone. That was fantastic to watch. Quickly, Cam Ward turns out he's coming out, Rick.
Man, I don't know about that.
Well, here's the math. And I was telling Debo that I talked to some people last week that said he may come out. And he got $2 million, I think, was the offer. I think that's the word on the street from FSU. I don't know if OSU was in that mix or not, Ohio State. But he's probably early day 3, worst case.
Like he would have made more money on the NIL money than he's going to make in any type of signing bonus that he's going to get.
So Aiden O'Connell signed a 4-year, $4 million deal, and that was the end of the 4th. So if he gets drafted 3rd through Aiden O'Connell range,
let's break down that how much of that money is actually guaranteed, not the $4 million.
Right, but you would imagine he'll be there for 4 years. I guess maybe not. Maybe there's no guarantee. Yeah, that's true. But you are getting a start on your NFL career, if that's the thinking.
Yeah, I know, but may not make that money you could have made on the NIL. I thought he made a mistake coming out.
All right, we'll find out together. I think I liked him a little bit more than you. We talked about him over the fall, but we'll revisit him for sure. Big arm. Sometimes he leaves the pocket too early, but he does have some athleticism. I thought he made some strides, given that he came from FCS Incarnate Word a couple years ago. He played 2 years at Washington State.
Are you ready for my initial? Does I go through my Rolodex as we're talking about him, and I got to go back and do more tape?
Yeah. Who
do you think my comp would be?
Spencer Rattler. He's that kind of freewheeling playmaker.
Not have a show, one show, please. Talk about Spencer Rattler.
I broke him. He was doing so well.
I give. Okay, put him as a top quarterback coming out, #1 overall. I'm done. I give. I can't fight it anymore.
Cam Ward comp Do you think he's a good athlete? Is he a better athlete than Michael Penix in your mind?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who.
There was a guy that Tennessee took.
Oh, Steve McNair?
No.
Oh, because that's a good athlete.
The last guy they took.
Will Levis?
No. Before Will Levis.
Oh, Ryan Tannehill.
No.
Oh, Malik. Golly, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know, he's probably a better thrower than Malik, but not as good a runner. So sort of balanced, lesser of both.
Yeah, I've just said my initial impression is a little bit of Malik Willis because I don't know how quickly he can get through his progressions. He runs around.
By the way, I went from Steve McNair to Will Levis to Ryan Tannehill. Then I got to Malik Willis.
Yeah, we went through the whole NFL roster. So
I named every quarterback ever drafted by the Titans / Oilers. Warren Moon. How about that? Is Warren Moon in there? He wasn't drafted. He came from the CFL, I believe. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. He was University of Washington.
Oh, good call. Well done. All right. So that's the recap of the late game college football playoff semifinals. I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the early game, Alabama, Michigan, what went well, what didn't. We'll talk about that right after this.
The Scudetto, where the soul of Italy meets the pinnacle of calcio. Catch Serie A on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount Plus.
All right, Rick.
Someone just texted me. Boy, that's a great comparison. Well, Malik Willis.
Is that Cam's agent? Alabama, Michigan. I don't want to start here, but I'm going to start here. And I don't want to dog this kid, but how can you be 14 games to the season and still not have the center quarterback shotgun snap down pat if you're Alabama?
Yeah, it's bizarro land. It is, because it was the whole season.
That dog is not a big fan of McLaughlin, the center.
No. they can't understand it either. I mean, you're talking about 2 years at center, and you can't snap a shotgun snap. It's bizarro land to me. And I don't know the reason why.
Yeah.
It's,
is it one of those
like even in the Auburn game where does he tighten up even more in pressure situations in a game? Because the tighter that game got, the less accurate some of those snaps were.
It felt like, to date ourselves, I don't even know if Debo knows who this is, but remember Steve Sachs for the Dodgers couldn't throw the ball to first base from second base? Chuck Knobloch, when he was with either the Twins or the Yankees, struggled to throw the ball to first base from second base. It was one of those mental block things.
Yeah.
Mackey Sasser. Do you know who Mackey Sasser is?
No.
Catcher for the Mets. He couldn't throw the ball back to the pitching mound. Like, that was one of the concerns. And he had a whole routine he would go through because you're only snapping the ball 6 yards. Like, what's going on?
It should be automatic. You think you practice it up. It's not like the first time you shotgun snap. You do it every day.
And by the way, I was listening to the Cover 3 podcast this morning while I was walking my dog, and they were going over the game. And one of the things that Bud Elliott mentioned was that they ended up putting Chris Jenkins over the center when things started going sideways, because what better way to make the center feel comfortable than putting a top 50 pick, a defensive tackle, over him to harass you as a zero technique. So they know what's up, and then it just sort of snowballs from there. That's not why they lost. It was just a talking point, and we're not here to talk about the center. We're here to talk about the other quarterback for Michigan, J.J. McCarthy, who played pretty much like he's played all season. Now, I don't know how injured he is or how healthy his ankle is, but the very first play of the game was very telling for me.
Yes.
He rolled right, and he was just supposed to throw the ball in the flat to either Roman Wilson or number 8. I can't remember which. And he was late on that, and then he tried to throw the over, and it went right into Terry and Arnold's hands, who just happened to be a half inch out of bounds.
Yeah.
I don't understand that decision. He didn't throw very many balls downfield. He didn't throw any balls more than 20 yards downfield, air yard wise. All the touchdowns were throws that, I made all the touchdown throws in the Texas conference game. You could have made all the touchdown throws in this game for Michigan. One was the blown coverage to Blake Corum, and 2 were overs that both guys were wide ass open on. So I'll ask you this, because I like J.J. McCarthy, the athlete. I don't know where he's going to fall in the old QB pecking order here. So what are your takeaways from this game in terms of how we've discussed J.J. McCarthy up to this point?
Yeah, he runs his offense very efficiently. I would say a couple of them were drops. I mean, he threw a slant route, and it went right through the freshman's hands.
Yep.
So he put some pepper on that ball now when it was coming out. But he knows how to run this offense. I don't know. It's almost like, is he like a reincarnation of what the head coach was when he was playing at Michigan?
Is that how? I don't remember Harbaugh playing. Harbaugh was in the 80s, maybe. I don't remember him playing.
Yeah,
Is that how he played?
He was just knew how to win, tough, competitive.
Gotcha.
Makes plays with his legs. Maybe not the most competent thrower from the pocket, but this guy wins. And Debo has up on the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, I took that line from you, Brian. I don't mean to step in the GM.
I don't own it. You can use it. Go for it.
So, but he wins games. And the decision making is a thing that I think teams will ask about. The decision making on the first play of the game, or what you pointed out, the decision making and some of those bizarre throws he made against the Bowling Green team that should never have been in that game. So I don't know what his decision process is, but I do know he's a winner. I do know he's athletic. I do know he can make some throws. I just don't know if he's not the same. I would put $1 on Michael Penix thrown for 400 yards in an NFL game before I would J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Although that I go back to that TCU game last year, and that sticks in my head too, when he had to make a lot of deep throws, and he threw the ball very well. He's got a smooth release, comes out quick. It's just the processing and the decision making. Sometimes I think people will want to get to the bottom of.
It's funny because I've talked to some teams that say exactly that. If you look at his 2022 tape, it's a little different at times. And he was injured for part of this year, which is the same conversation we had to have about Will Levis. We'll go look at the year before. And I think you've actually pushed back on looking at the year before as, blowing your hair back to the point where you're like, oh, this is a clear-cut first-round pick. But I'll say this. I think Will Levis is a better prospect than J.J. McCarthy coming out. Where are you on that?
I respectfully disagree.
That's fine. That's okay. I mean, that's the whole point. As someone pointed out to me recently, we don't know what we're talking about anyway. So, and just generally speaking, in terms of trying to figure out who the quarterbacks are, so you might as well go with whatever your thing is. One of the other things about JJ that I have questions about is it feels like at times he passes up what might be tougher but bigger play throws and settles for stuff that's underneath, whereas Michael Penix is just like ripping it. Again, not the same wide receivers. Roman Wilson is his guy, and he's a slot guy primarily, and he doesn't.
But and I don't want to come to his defense. He's not throwing to the threesome in Washington or even at Texas. He doesn't have that same caliber of talent at the receiver position that some of these other guys do.
That's true. And so there's a lot to sort through. I mean, we have a lot to try to, and we've watched a ton, and we've talked a ton about J.J. McCarthy, and I still don't feel great about where he's going to go. Do you think?
I can just make one quick comment. And like I'm watching the offensive lineman from Washington. Debo, can you put that back up real quick?
Oh, no. I know. Please don't tell me you're going to start whinging about the pants.
Why do they play in shorts? I don't understand that. They can't do that in the NFL. I don't know why the NCAA doesn't have rules that you have to have your knees covered. It's just bizarro land to me.
Well, if we get Roman Wilson on set at the combine,
I hope we get the offensive tackle from Washington on set.
Catania as well.
Yeah. The whole Washington offensive line plays in shorts.
It makes it faster, I guess, because those guys are moving around.
I don't know.
All right. If you have the answer as to why football players are allowed to wear shorts, please tweet at Rick Spielman, at Spielman_Rick, and at NFL Draft CBS, so we can.
I can change my Twitter handle to just or X handle, whatever the hell it is, even though I never look at it. To just scout in the corner.
Scout in the corner. That's a good one. That one might be taken. Is J.J. McCarthy a first-round pick in your mind?
I think he is, but I think he's fallen behind Jaden Daniels. I think he's fallen behind Penix. And I hate to say this, but the way Bo Nix played.
Oh, there it is. I was going to ask you because Bo Nix, I mean, he lit up Liberty, and we all knew that was going to happen. Yeah. But he played, and he looked good.
He helped himself. He played, which means he just helped himself shoot up the boards a little bit.
Because, again, talking about Will Levis last year and in a sense, JJ this year, you know who Bo Nix is. Like, there are no surprises with Bo Nix. Do we know who JJ McCarthy is?
I don't know that.
Right.
I don't know that at this point.
So that's the question. All right. Oh boy, who's your comp for JJ, or should I go first? Because you're gonna be angry when I tell you.
I don't think I have a comp for him. Did I have a comp for him, Devo? Did we do him in the summer?
I don't know if we did him in the summer. I'll tell you.
I shouldn't say wasting. We were evaluating some guys that were not going to be in the first round.
I'll be honest with you. I took a flyer on Riley Leonard. I thought maybe he might have a breakout year, and he got hurt and then he transferred. So we'll get a chance to talk about him again next fall. All right. So I got two for you. I'll give you one, but you have to please go back to his draft year and think about him coming out. Don't consider anything that's happened since. Coming out in terms of the unpredictability, the athleticism, both as a runner and a thrower, Ryan Tannehill.
No.
Ryan didn't play a lot of he played wide receiver, didn't play a lot of quarterback out of A&M, and there were a lot of questions about him. But he was a good athlete with a good arm.
Yeah, I think JJ's a better athlete.
He could be. I mean, the way Ryan Tannehill runs.
Yeah, I respect that.
I won't tell you my other one because that'll probably make you mad. I'll tell you.
It doesn't make me mad. I have 14 or whatever days left to not get mad. Who?
A more accurate. I don't even.
Come on, that's why we're on this podcast.
More accurate Des Ridder.
Okay, that's good.
Is that better than Tannehill?
Yeah, at least.
Okay.
Yes.
There was talk about Des Ridder maybe sneaking into the first round, and the accuracy always sort of threw me off. I thought he was a great teammate and a great leader. But if you're more accurate, Des Ridder, that's exactly what a team is looking for, because he's a good athlete.
Yeah. Well, decision maker more than.
Yeah, that's true. But the accuracy will help with the decision making. If you don't know where the ball's going and you make poor decisions, that's a deadly combination.
That's a bad deal.
All right. So JJ, the jury's still out. He's a day two guy for me right now, but maybe that changes. We'll figure it out together, Rick.
That's what we do.
Next up, running back Blake Corum. He was the engine that made that offense work, even though JJ had 3 touchdowns. He took over in overtime, had 2 runs from 25, and 25 yards later, he was in the end zone. He looks to be healthier than he's looked at any point this season. Remember last year against Illinois, he got hurt, and there were concerns into the year. It feels like he's finally back, and he runs low to the ground. That jump cut is legit behind the line of scrimmage, getting to the gap that he wants to get to, and he accelerates pretty well. He'll run between the tackles, but I don't feel like that's his game. He can bounce it outside and beat the second-level guys to the corner if he needs to. And he showed the ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. And I'll just tell you my comp for him now, and then you can move on any direction you want. I think he's a souped-up version of Illinois' Chase Brown, who plays for the Bengals now.
Probably a little quicker twitch as far as making cuts. All right, now we're throwing squeeze balls against the wall. I'll throw this one, see if it sticks with you. A slower version of a running back at Seattle that was.
Oh my goodness! I hope you're Ken
Walker. I mean, from the ability to make cuts. Now his speed levels off, where Walker's speed is different in the open field.
Yeah,
but the inline vision and the ability to cut and some of the balance that he has.
He has good balance.
Contact.
Yeah.
So that part of the game reminds me a little bit of Kenneth Walker.
Is Ken a little thicker?
No, this kid's a fire plug, I think.
Oh, okay. Because I always think of Ken as being pretty thick. Not 230 thick.
Too.
Yeah. Because guys do bounce off of him.
Huh?
Guys do bounce off of Corum when they try to tackle him.
So I just don't think he has a finish speed that Ken Walker has, but he has some of the same movement in line that Kenneth Walker has.
Oh, I like it. All right. So we'll have to see how fast he is. Most rushing touchdowns in Michigan history. Blake Corum is number 1. Anthony Thomas, Tyrone Wheatley, Denard Robinson, great dual threat player back in the day as well. Follow on the list there. Corum looks like an offensive tackle in that mugshot that Debo has up there. He's built like he's that thick. He feels like maybe
Friday guy.
I was gonna say, you think late day? I had like late 3rd round. Is that too late?
Yes.
Oh, you think it goes before that? Okay. And he has a chance to be running. Like, who's running back 1 if TreVeyon Henderson's not coming out?
If TreVeyon Henderson doesn't come out, then you just throw them all in a bag.
Yeah.
You got all kinds of sizes, shapes.
Yeah, and we haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet.
Little guys, the Benson from Florida State kind of moved up.
Can't forget about Trey.
So
yeah, that'll be interesting. But he had a huge game. And
when we get into our clusters of these guys, it's like the clusters of these quarterbacks after the first two, the clusters of the receivers, the clusters, not on day one, but on maybe Friday, the clusters of none of these running backs will go in the first round, but the clusters of these running backs.
This draft feels incredibly deep.
It's a good draft.
All right, let's talk about a player who's probably going to be a top 10 pick who I didn't watch him, but you did. Maybe didn't have his best performance. Right tackle J.C. Latham for Alabama.
Yeah, it didn't because that's why you always go back to the tape. But TV Scout and that sack, Alabama had issues picking up the pressure packages at Michigan. I mean, Milroe got sacked 5 times, I think, in the first half.
In the first half.
Yeah, they couldn't pick up the blitzes or where the pressures were coming from. It looked like their protections were confused up front. The sack that J.C. Latham, he had 2 guys come off the edge. He didn't know whether to take the inside or outside guy. He was kind of left on the island. And then the last play of the game, where it was a quarterback draw, I went back and looked at that, and he's pass setting like he's supposed to. He just got high, and the guy collapsed inside and made a nice play. But when you went back and watched the game, he moved some people off the ball now in the run game, and that continues to show up. I think that in pass protection, he's a right tackle athlete, but he plays with better bend than, to me, Darnell Wright. So I think he's a more fluid athlete than Darnell Wright was when he came out of Tennessee last year. I still think with the quarterbacks that may get pushed up, with the receivers that may get pushed up, that I think he's going to fall between 10 and 20. Because I still think Fashanu and Alt are going to go in the top 10. And if you look at the needs of some of those teams that, I don't know if you put out your recent mock draft.
Oh, we're going to talk about it after the break, so hold on to your hats.
Okay, but I think he will be somewhere in the 10 to 20 range, but definitely the third or offensive tackle off the board.
And it's funny. Last year, we tried to talk ourselves into these wide receivers going early, maybe even top 15-ish, and they didn't go off the board till 20.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see how the teams feel about the offensive tackles, and the wide receivers are better. And I think we've said before,
again, when we do our cluster meetings, after the 3, then you can cluster all these guys in there. Oregon State, Arizona, Barton, which guys are going to slide in, Washington,
Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton,
Mims, who's declared coming out of Georgia.
Did he declare from a wheelchair, or was he standing up?
Nah, I don't know. I didn't see that when he announced it. But there's another 5 or 6 really good group of offensive linemen that we're going to have to decipher an order on those guys.
And just to be clear, I'm kidding about Mims for people listening that might get
upset.
Oh,
yeah. That Ryan Wilson, whatever his Twitter handle is thing.
I love Amarius Mims. I would like him to be healthy. That's all I'm saying. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at the latest draft order. I'm going to go through my mock draft, and I'm going to throw out a crazy trade to you, Rick, and see what you think about it right after this.
Out there are 2 colossal beings, both forces of nature in their own regard. But in here, as soon as the chute bursts open, the duality of man and beast begins to fade. This is the PBR on CBS Sports Network.
All right, let's look at the new draft order. I mentioned the Carolina Panthers have solidified the #1 overall pick, which belongs to the Bears. And in case you're listening, number 2, Washington, by virtue of their latest loss. The Patriots are at 3, Arizona's at 4, the Giants at 5, Chargers at 6, Tennessee at 7, Jets at 8, Falcons 9, Chicago with their own pick at 10. Those are the top 10. And I did an HQ exclusive mock draft this week, Rick. And here's the deal. I had Chicago trading down from 2 to 1 because Washington wants Caleb Williams.
How can Chicago trade down from 2 to 1?
What do you mean? They go from, from 1 to 2.
Okay.
I got my numbers backwards. Washington moves up from 2 to 1. Thank you for and Washington takes Caleb. And then Ryan Poles moves down one more time from 2 to 3. Chicago goes from 2 to 3. So the Patriots can move up and get Drake May before some other team does that. And the thinking here is you double dip on the draft compensation, and you're at 3, so you're getting Marvin Harrison Jr. And the way Justin Fields has been playing, especially in Sunday's game in terrible weather in which he had one of his best passing games, maybe in his career, certainly this season, in addition to the 45 rushing yards, you have him with DJ Moore, and you get a ton of draft picks. Now, when I initially did this Monday for HQ, the draft compensation both times was basically some variation of what the Bears gave up to get Mitch Trubisky in 2017 when they traded from 3 to 2. But do you have an updated version of what you want? And if not, I fiddle with some numbers, and I want to know if you would take this.
What am I taking?
Do you have a draft compensation you would prefer to see other than the Mitch Trubisky numbers? If not, I'll give you my updated version.
Yeah, no, just give that. I mean, because it's going to be demand. So
right. Okay. So here's I'll just skip the Mitch Trubisky stuff. You can look it up if you're dying to know. But I'll tell you what I'm willing to offer you, Rick, as Ryan Poles, if I am Washington and moving up from 2 and want to get to 1. I'll give you the number 2 pick. I'll give you the 41 pick, which, by the way, is the pick you gave us for Montez Sweat, so you get that back. Currently, the Bears don't have any second-round pick. And I'll give you a 2025 first to go up 1 spot.
I would definitely consider that. Okay.
Because the original Trubisky trade didn't involve any ones being swapped other than the current draft. Like it was some 3rd rounders and a 4th rounder and next year's 2nd, I believe. So that's the consideration. And now to go from, if I'm the Patriots, to go from 3 to 2, here's what I'll give you. I'll give you, obviously, the number 3 pick. I'll give you the number 34 pick. Then I'll give you a 4th rounder, 103, and then I'll give you a 2025 3rd rounder to go from 3 to 2.
Yeah, no, I would consider that too. I mean, you put a lot of thought into that, and you made very strong offers that we will definitely talk about, and I'll get back to you, Mr. Wilson, if we're interested.
All right, we got 10 minutes, so don't let the clock run out. And at that point, I mean, you have a boatload of 2s, you have a boatload of 3s, you have a first rounder, an extra first rounder in 2025. You have 2 first rounders this year anyway. There's no excuse that you're not winning 10 games next year. And by the way, it sounds like, according to reports, Matt Eberflus is coming back.
Yeah, so you're going to have everything the same. And I think Coach Eberflus should get another shot because the defense has been playing a lot better. And, Ryan Poles, I thought, what Montez Sweat has done has changed the dynamic of that defensive pass rush. Now you get an opportunity, if you're Chicago, to get a playmaker for Justin Fields. I understand that I'm going to have to make a decision on a 5th-year option and look at a potential extension. And I can help the defense where I will be getting probably another pass rusher to go along with Montez Sweat opposite him with the next pick.
Well, look down there at number 10 and tell me what you think of that pick.
Yes. I mean, I would definitely consider him.
Jared Verse, Florida State, number 10 pick to the Bears. So they couple him with Marvin Harrison Jr. and then Montez Sweat.
And then I'm going to get another really good player because of the depth of this draft with the Montez Sweat pick. Was that number 41?
Number 41 you get back as part of the Washington trade-up deal.
Yeah. And so now you have, 2 second-round picks?
You don't have a second rounder initially, but you get 2 from the Patriots pick, which is number 34, and then you get back the Montez at number 41. So, yeah, now you have number 34 and number 41.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Dude, there's no excuse. You have to win 10 games next year, and you have to go to the playoffs. That's it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go through the rest of this top 10 here since we're talking about it. So Marvin Harrison Jr. feels like a grand slam. Like that's any consideration to trade down a little further to get more stuff, and maybe you take a Malik or or Dunze? No. Okay. And number 4, Ola Fashanu for the Cardinals.
Yes, because if not, then he's going to be gone with New York.
And then you have Paris Johnson Jr. and Fashanu as your bookends, and hopefully you're set. I mean, the Giants tried to do that a few years ago, and they weren't set, but that's the thinking. What about Jaden Daniels at number 5 to the Giants?
That's where it starts to get a little interesting.
Would you take Joe Alt there? I mean,
I think Joe Alt comes into consideration.
That means you're rolling with Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to feel about Jaden Daniels. I mean, you made a monster out of him, so who's
your comp for him?
Huh?
Who's your comp for him?
I already told you who it was.
Why won't you say it out loud so I can get you on the record?
Yeah, the MVP of the league this year.
Exactly. That's what I was going to follow up with. He's the MVP of the league.
Okay, so I'll take him.
All right. So what about if that just happens to play that way, then Joe Alt going to the Chargers?
Yeah, I could see that, but I could also see them going a lot of different directions too, because they're going to have some tough decisions to make on some of their older guys.
Yeah.
You know, I may look at pass rusher there too, just off the top of my head, without having the team needs in front of me.
And by the way, if the Chargers go pass rusher there, the Titans are taking Joe Alt, and they're not hesitating.
No.
I had him taking J.C. Latham. Is that too rich for you, J.C. Latham at 7?
I think right there would be a little rich.
Okay. And then at 8, the Jets are on the clock, and then the Falcons
They need
are next.
Offensive linemen, so but I think there'll be you know, Malik Neighbors. They need playmakers.
Yeah.
They need pass rushers. So it all depends on how their board's stacked, and if they think that they can swing back in the second round and get an offensive lineman.
So at 8, the Jets are on the clock. I had them taking Malik Neighbors. I like the idea of getting Garrett Wilson some help, whatever that help may look like. I'm sure they would rather have an offensive lineman early, but maybe not. Any consideration to Mr. Penix Jr. here?
No.
Is that because you don't want to anger Aaron Rodgers, or because you don't think it's too soon?
Aaron would be like, okay, every time I go somewhere, then they draft a quarterback in the first round. So I think with them in the win mode now next year, because they're trying to save their jobs, they're not worried about potential quarterback of the future.
That's true.
So they're going to go whatever player helps them the best. And they need the offensive lineman. So you kind of screwed them in this mock draft.
Yeah. Well, would you take J.C. Latham here if he's available at 8?
Yes.
Okay. Too rich at 7, not too rich at 8.
No, I'm just saying that I think that the Chargers could go their offensive line, but I think that you got to also look at the depth, and can we get some of these offensive linemen to help us later? If, you know, like I said, Bosa's hurt all the time, even though he's good when he's healthy. Max, you know, 33, 34 years old, even though he had an incredible year.
Yeah.
A lot of it, it's like I said, philosophies may change with the changes coming out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know what those changes are going to look like. All right, Malik Neighbors number 8. I'm guessing you'd be fine with that in terms of just helping Aaron and helping Garrett Wilson not have to do everything.
Unless Aaron says he wants to go trade 8 to go get Devontae Adams.
Well, at least Devontae can still don't cut Randall Cobb and then get him again. Yeah, I get that. What about the Falcons at 9? Michael Penix Jr.? Kind of interested in that?
I think quarterback may be the next spot there. How can you not get a quarterback if you come back?
Right, because I hadn't taken Dallas Turner, but I mean, Dallas Turner's a great player, and Dallas Turner, I think, did announce that he's coming out, which I don't think surprises anyone, but just so we can talk about it down the road. But I had him taking Dallas Turner, obviously going to be a top 15 pick, but quarterback is a enormous need because they benched Des Ridder. Heineke played. I think Ridder came into the end. It didn't matter. Offensively, that team has a lot of questions. And then Jared Verse, we talked about.
Yeah. If Jaden Daniels and I think Penix, that would come into conversation potentially there.
No J.J. McCarthy this high?
No.
Okay. I just want to double check. All right. I think that's it. Well, it's a pretty tidy podcast. We'll be back Thursday. And, yeah, Dallas did officially declare for the draft. Debo informs me. Debo, what are we doing Thursday?
We are going to take a look at a lot of team needs for some of these teams that we just mentioned, and a little bit.
I thought he was going to say, yeah, we're going to take a look at Ryan Wilson's 2025 mock draft.
I've already thinking about it. Well, all these guys coming, you know, the good thing, Rick, that we've watched so many guys. The guys that are coming back means the guys we don't have to go back and watch, and we know some of them are going to be hot button topics over the summer. So I've done some of my homework already. But yeah, not yet for the 2025. All right, so we'll do team needs on Thursday. And by the way, I haven't mentioned this yet. If you leave us a 5-star review of an FBS or FCS player who is draft eligible and coming out, I mean, if they're not coming out, we can save it for the summer. Nominate them on Apple Podcasts. 5-star review, tell us who it is, and we will get to that player. We've gotten through most of them. We still have a handful more to do, so we'll do that throughout the process. Otherwise, that is a wrap on episode 110. We'll be back Thursday for episode 111 with 112 days left. Oh, that'll be the crossover, Rick. That'll be the closest we get.
Well, what happens? Do you shoot fireworks off or something like that?
You get to go watch. I told you.
I found out, and again, I'm very IT not savvy. I sent someone like Happy New Year's, and then all of a sudden the thing blew up. Like confetti went everywhere on the message and stuff like that.
That will be the only way that Debo texts us going forward in the group text. So make sure you get fireworks. I think you can make it do all sorts of things, lasers and everything. Listen to old guys trying to explain the phone. All right, that's it. 110 in the books. Thanks to all you guys who watch and listen and comment. We appreciate you. Thanks as always to my guy Rick. Thanks to Dio for producing, and we'll see you guys on